Nice to see such a nice turnout this morning. Well, interesting week it's been since last Tuesday. First we had an outage in the morning. Then we had a plumber that set off the alarm in the late afternoon. And then we had the big fire that evening around 8 o'clock. And then the flood with all the water. And we really appreciate the fact that staff came in late, came back from home, got them on site, worked to the wee hours of the morning. So I'd like to express through Brent our appreciation. As you know, well, we got hurricane preparedness next week on the 21st. So the emergency plans are well run and well trained. And we don't get to see the training, but obviously they've been trained very well. So on July 20th, the Railroad Board is going to have our quarterly meeting here in the town hall. And the one item on the agenda, if you haven't seen it posted, is that we're making some changes to the bylaws, which are basically to update it to meet current regulations and for state regulations. And if they want to see them, they're posted in the bulletin boards in the north by the sign-up tables. In the south, they're in the mail room. They're also in a copy in the libraries and at the front desk. So if you're interested, you can see that before our meeting. Also, the next forum is the July 1st, I would suspect. First Friday?
Yes.
Okay. And this afternoon is in the know with RO. 2:30 in the South Grand lobby. And so if you have a comment or concern, you got a chance to talk one-on-one with the directors. So at 2:30 or 3:30 in the South Grand lobby today. And one other thing I want to make a comment about is that because the staff did such a great job, we got to show our appreciation more than just applause. We have the employee gift fund that to show our appreciation. Of course, we have the scholarship fund, and at the minimum, we have the extraordinary expression cards where if you got somebody that's doing a good job every day, it's good to confirm that. Just let them know they're doing a good job every day. And even if it's just a smile and a hello. So, I think that's it for all I've got.
Great.
Yeah, you guys are having fun, I'm telling you. Is that my cue to get off the stage?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Take the cue.
Thank you, Chris. I'll just let you that. So, how many of you have seen that commercial where they talk about discombobulation? Have you seen that, anyone? No. Okay, so it talks about how us humans live in a state of combobulation until things happen, and then we become discombobulated. So that's sort of how I feel. Is there a lot going on at Regency Oaks? Oh my gosh, with the construction and the tavern and the meal changes, and then dealing with some natural disasters or some accidents. So we are really, really busy. It's been an exciting week. I want to share a little bit about that with you. Let's go ahead and start. We'll dim the lights. Thank you for the delay. This is Wednesday, of course, not Tuesday. Yesterday we had spur of the moment. Peak was in town. They had foreign investors from New Zealand and Australia, And I'd like to say that they had heard about Regency Oaks and were coming to check us out, but I think the truth is they actually were coming to check out Peak. They were looking at making some sort of investment in the CCRC industry, and I can say that Peak said, well, of all the Tampa communities, there's only one you really need to go see, and that's Regency Oaks. So that was a feather in our cap, and we had our Peak partners here along with some investors, and we had the opportunity to tour them yesterday. It was sort of interesting because they are CCRC investors over in New Zealand and Australia, but their model looks very different from our model. They only have independent living, and they provide assisted living in the independent living apartments. That's sort of how it's done over there, and it was a very different approach to that. All right, on with Tuesday talk. So COVID in Florida this past week, we've seen the first fall off of the wave. Daily new cases have dropped by 14%. We've continued to see a few more fatalities. That's a trailing indicator, so we anticipated that. And then the hospitalizations, they were still up, but they were down significantly from the previous week. Here at Regency Oaks, our trend is looking very well as well. We currently have 2 residents in independent living that have tested positive this week. You will recall that we had 2 last week, and both of them are getting ready to come off of a quarantine. And then the prior week we had 6. So our trend line is headed down as well. The positivity rate last week was 22% in Florida. It's dropped all the way to 16.2. And here in Pinellas County, we're a little bit better at 14.9. And I keep leaving this up there because this really is the important takeaway from this slide. How you prevent the spread of the virus, other than being fully vaccinated, is we understand that it's contagious, but it's contained within Regency Oaks. We practice good social distancing, and if we have symptoms, we wear a mask, we report or let somebody know that you have symptoms, and then we isolate you at home. And by following those good practices, we've been able to really contain the spread of COVID here at Regency Oaks, and everybody, knock on wood. All right, next slide. So we had to cancel the clinic last Thursday. We were really booked. But we have rebooked it. We do not need to do the pre-forms again. It's still going to be the Department of Health that is going to come and do the survey. It'll be right here in the town hall, and our tentative date is June 22nd. That is next Wednesday. The DOH has penciled us in. We will get the confirmation on that later today. So it's not locked in right now, but it's tentatively set for next Wednesday. It's going to be between 8 and 4. Your numbers are still your numbers, okay?
Your letters.
Your letters are still your letters. So if you were an A or a D or a K, you're still that same letter. We're still going to get the full 440 shots. Next slide. We've only had 200 residents sign up, so you still have the opportunity to sign up. We ask that if you had already received the booster, to let the front desk know. So far, we've had 53 residents report to us that you have in fact had the booster. So we'll continue to see if we can raise that number. If we have 253 accounted for, we have 456 residents. So we're sitting right at about 50% of the residents who are either choosing not to have the additional booster or have had it and not informed us. So there's still some work to do there. we're looking to get 100%, just like we were with the vaccine. We are going to be able to accommodate walk-ups on the day of the clinic. We know we're working on really short notice, getting it rescheduled for next Wednesday. So we're not going to do another gathering in the hall where we do the pre-work, but you can come the day of the clinic. You do not have to pre-register. If you'd like to get your paperwork done prior to showing up, you can stop in at the front desk and get the paperwork, and we will get you registered for next Wednesday. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the fire. Wake anyone up? Yeah, that's. They'd given me a call, and I was responding to that call when my daughter called, and she had her tracker on and was looking at the fire and police report, and she called me and she said, "Hey, Dad, there are an awful lot of firemen headed your way. Are you aware of that?" And so, yes, there were. We had a really large, robust response. We ended up with first responders. We ended up with 22 trucks. We had every hook and ladder truck in all of the 4 agencies that responded. If there had been another fire in Palm Harbor or Safety Harbor, Dunedin, they would not have had a hook and ladder to respond, because every single one of them was at Regency Oaks. When I got here, I drove from Wesley Chapel, but nearly from the information center all the way through to the back of the back of the North Building parking lot was wall-to-wall trucks. They had over 90 firemen that were here, and then of course the staff just did a phenomenal job. I'm so proud of our team. Middle of the night, you had 45 first responders from Regency Oaks, our staff members who got out of bed and responded to the call. We use a triage system. It's a tree call log. And so I call someone, and that person calls 2 people, and those people call 2 people, and those people call 2 people. And so we were able to get pretty far down our tree log and get those calls out. And we just had a tremendous response. And so you always think about, we spend an awful lot of time training, and Chris did mention that, but you always sort of wonder, okay, this works when we practice it, but is it going to work when we actually have an emergency? And it did work. And so I'm not necessarily surprised, but I'm just so very grateful for the committed staff that we have, and the people who said, I'm not going to sit this one out. I'm going to get up and go in and take care of the residents, because that they're my family. And so what a tremendous job they did. We had a tremendous amount of people. We're going to talk about evacuation in a minute, but we had all the people that we needed. And we think about the approach that we use here at Regency Oaks. It's called shelter in place and stay in your apartment. And I've had residents tell me in the past, that's a really hard thing to do, because there are 22 fire trucks out there, and there are 90 firemen, and these damn bells are going off, and there's, I don't want to stay here. I'm worried about whether that's the safe thing to do. Well, the evacuation went so very well and the plans worked exactly like they were supposed to work, and we didn't have any issues in terms of evacuating people, doing it in an orderly transgression, making sure that the fire department, who actually takes on the on-site responsibility, he determined the way that we were going to prioritize, zone the building, and evacuate on a priority need basis, and it really, really went flawlessly. One of the things that, we've talked about this, but you don't really understand it until you actually see it in action. And when you think about your apartment, you live within a zone within a zone. And what we mean by that, if you look at your apartment, you have a 2-hour wall of solid concrete all around your apartment. And so if a raging fire is in your apartment, it's going to be contained for up to 2 hours. Then there is another wall of containment that surrounds the building. And so the R wing had another 2-hour separation at the fire doors and concrete block throughout the exterior walls. And so you actually had a 2-hour zone of protection surrounded by a 2-hour zone of protection. And literally, those fire doors held. They worked exactly like they were designed to work. And that raging fire, and we'll see some actual pictures here, never got outside the room. And so it was just phenomenal to see how it all works. So multi-agency response, we talked about there were 4 different agencies that responded. The evacuation plan was really orderly. The only thing that was new that we learned, after we do an after-action analysis and we go back and say, okay, what did we do that was really good and what did we do that we could have done better? And here's one of the things that we walked away with, and this is new for me, I never realized it, but we talked about the zone within the zone. And so when the fire department responded, they did not respond by going into the zone. So the first thing they did is they evacuated, and then the second thing is they started to fight the fire. And the approach was not to go into the front of the apartment. And I want to go back and brag on Justin just a little bit. Justin is our head of security. He was the first to respond. And he came up, he knew where the alarm was going off. He came up to the room, and through his training, he knew not to touch the door because the door is hot. And so he used the back of his hands to put his hands up against the door and was able to determine that it was getting warm. And he knew enough not to open that door, because what would have happened if he had opened the door? Yeah, that oxygen would have fueled that fire and brought it into the hallway. So, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. Same approach with the fire department. They did not go up the R-wing stairs because they didn't know what was there. So what they did is they came up the core stairs that are just to the side of my office and the M-wing stairs. Anyone try to evacuate down the M-wing stairs? They had firemen coming up those stairs the entire night. So when we think about, so I'm sitting here saying, okay, well, why did you go around to the back of the building with your hook and ladder and blow out a window and put water on the fire from the outside? Well, this is why. They wanted to make sure that the fire was entirely contained before they breached the door and would have penetrated to the corridors. And so it kept all that contaminants and smoke from being able to go out into the hallways. And so that was something new that we learned about fighting fires. The other thing that stood out in my mind is each one of those little teeny sprinkler heads has 300 PSI, pounds per square inch of pressure. Boy, can they put out a lot of water. Who knew that those things could distribute that volume of water? And then, of course, this guy right here was shooting a 4-inch fire hose into the building as well. Next slide. So this is taken right after midnight on the night of the fire. You can see the floors are completely covered in water. We had 4.5 feet of water in the core elevator right up front. Now they're out here right now as we speak, and so it's been drying out. So we hope to get that core elevator up and running today. But just look at the amount of the water. All of our hallways were covered. Let me turn this off. So sorry. Would you turn that off? Aren't young people great? It's like, I don't know how to turn this thing off. We had water, that's supposed to be smoke and soot damage. And I don't know what spot damage is, but so it's water, soot, and smoke damage. And where we stand right now is the scene of origin. Everyone knows it started in S40 or R402. That has been cleared. The City of Clearwater, the fire department, fire marshal cleared the scene on Tuesday night, actually Wednesday morning. Later that morning, the City of Clearwater cleared the scene, and then the insurance companies, and that's where it is now. It's a battle of the insurance companies. They finally cleared it yesterday, so it's been ruled an accident. There is a fire marshal's report that is due out in 7 to 10 days. We'll share that information for anyone who's interested, but I'll talk a little bit more about it. Where we stand right now is it is not yet determined whether this was a 2-alarm fire or a 3-alarm fire. That's going to be that decision. There's a conference today at 12:30 to make that decision. It's sitting right on the borderline. Why that's important is a 2-alarm fire is less dangerous than a 3-alarm fire. And so when we think about water, all this water that was in the building, it's not the smoke damage, it's not the water damage. You can clean that up. It's the carcinogens and the toxins that are in the water that are being spread throughout the building. And so if it's a level 2, it's a lower level of carcinogens. If it's a level 3, it's a much higher level. And so it represents a safety risk for residents. So if this turns out to be a level 3, there's going to have to be much more extensive renovations than if it's a level 2. And they make this determination through Petri dish lab analysis. They come and they swab areas of the drywall and the carpet and the floorings, and then they take it off and run chemical analysis so that they're able to determine with great certainty what is involved. To watch them mitigate an apartment is really, really interesting. So if you were in an affected apartment and we had to put you in a hotel for a few days, anything you took out of that apartment had to be mitigated. And so they would go in, we'd give them a list. Here's what I need. I'm going to be in the hotel for 3 days. I need a list of items to get me through 3 days. I need my phone charger. I need my toothbrush. I need a couple of changes of clothing. I need a favorite family photo. And all of that had to be put in contamination boxes. Then it was taken to a clean area. It was disinfected and sanitized, and then all the clothing or garments that you took out of the apartment had to be laundered. And so all that would happen, and then the next morning, everything that was on your list was delivered to you in a sealed box. And so essentially that's going to occur for every piece of furniture, for every personal possession, for every article of clothing, for anyone who is impacted in these areas. So here is the start of the fire, and this just sort of shows you the picture from the door. You can see lots of charred remains, and you see this trundle bed right up here in the corner. And I want you to just look at the very top corner. Does everyone see the electrical outlet and there's something plugged in?
Yeah.
Okay, we'll go to the next slide. And so this is what actually happened. This is inside your box springs. It's nice and pretty when you look at it at the store. Well, when you burn off all the cloth, you actually have springs. And so these are metal box springs, and they had, you see these cords coming 1, 2, and 3. This box spring had bunched up against the baseboard and these 3 electrical cords, and one of them arced. When it arced, it caught the mattress on fire. The mattress caught the bed material on fire. It caught the drapes on fire, and at that point we had a pretty roaring fire. So, yeah, okay, so I'm going to come back to that one. That was sort of out of order. We'll come back. Can we just go to the one after that one? One more. Nope. What happened to all the photos? Okay, I had a lot more photos. I don't know what happened to them, so next Tuesday. We'll give you more photos next Tuesday. All right, let's go back to the last slide and I'll talk about that one more. And so this is what actually happened with our residents. We had 42 residents that were impacted and had to be inconvenienced. Some were relocated to hotels, others were relocated to sister communities. We had a number go down to Bradenton, and we also had a smaller contingency go to Seminole Square. Here's Jill Sorensen, our senior vice president, and that's Amy, and they are being greeted by residents down at Bradenton. So 42 residents had to be relocated. Here's the way we broke that down. The R wing we broke down into everything to the left of the mid-wing elevator and everything to the right of the mid-wing elevator. Those people who lived on the right-hand side, those were the residents who were able to go to hotels for 2 or 3 days while we sanitized their units, got them dried up, and were able to get them moved back in. Most of those units had minimal damage. They had some water damage. We removed carpet, took off baseboards. They're going to need to be repainted. They could have had some cabinet concerns. But the majority of those people are going to be able to stay here throughout the renovations. Their renovations are going to take about 30 days as well, but we're going to be able to do it while they're in their apartment. We'll be able to work around them. And we sort of held a meeting with them, and we said, look, we got options for you. We can put you in a hotel for 30 days. We can send you to a sister community for 30 days. Or you can go back to your home and be surrounded by your environments, but it's going to be noisy and we're going to have to do some work in your apartments. Almost every one of them said, no, I want to go to my home. I prefer to be in my home, even under the understanding that it was maybe going to be difficult over the course of the next 3 weeks. The other half, anyone who lived in the core section from Denise's desk all the way down to the mid-wing elevator, every one of those residents has to be off campus for at least 30 days. And a large number of those residents, there were, I think, 8 units that were totally destroyed. And so all the furniture, personal possessions are going to have to be packed up. They take them off site, they put them in an ozone controlled clean room, and then they mitigate them, pack them up in clean boxes, what they can salvage, put it in off-site storage, and then those apartments are going to have to be completely torn down to the studs and rebuilt. And so those 8 apartments, we're just starting the notification today. So some of your neighbors are going to get some bad news today. The rest of the apartments in the contaminated section, the core section, had damage, but it was not major damage. We're going to have to repaint, maybe put in some new counters and cabinets, replace some baseboards, but they basically had just minimal water damage, almost no smoke damage throughout the entire community, because Justin did such a good job of not opening that door and allowing that fire to spread. And so next time you see Justin, if there's a hero in all of this, it was Justin. So we may bring him in at one of our next meetings and just give him a round of applause, because he followed his training, he used his head, he did exactly what he was supposed to do. And Justin, if you don't know, has a police background, so he had a little additional training, but he really was he saved the day. So where we are right now, we're finishing up the mitigation. We're still 2 weeks away from starting the rebuild. We're pretty much dry. We're sitting at about 80%. We started the week at about 65%, so over the last 2 days, it looks like they're drying 5 to 10% a day. 87% is considered dry, because we live in a very humid state. There's always 13% humidity. So if we can get everything up to 86, 87%, that's pretty much considered dry. And at that point, they'll start pulling out the fans, the blowers, the dehumidifiers, and the decadent machine that brings forced heat into the building. If we pipe in heat instead of air conditioning, it's about 104 degrees in that core section. Have you seen the plastic doors? That's why. It's because they've created a heat box. And so that should, by the end of the week, I'm guessing, we should see all that begin to clear, and then we'll start moving to construction over the course of the next 10 days. Where we are now is insurance, and here is the way. Our first meeting with insurance is tomorrow, but here's sort of my understanding of insurance. I have insurance. I have fire insurance, I have general liability insurance, and then residents have content insurance. And so residents don't come to me to deal with insurance issues. I'm there if you get stuck. But the way this works is your insurance agent will get with my insurance agent, and they will integrate the claims. And so it's handled insurance agent to insurance agent. And I have business interruption insurance. You have uninhabitability insurance, and you're under your content insurance. And so how that works and who pays what, all that's going to be decided. Again, full transparency, we'll continue to update you, but that's the phase that we're beginning to enter into right now. They are estimating the damages here are going to come close to $2 million. So pretty substantial claims. All right, next slide, we'll sort of finish up. Great news. Trusses somehow this slide, we got a little bit of the old, a little bit of the new. The trusses are to be delivered on 6/19, that's this Friday. And so Monday morning, the trusses are going to start going up on the new construction. That's what's been holding up the delay. The Gastro Pub furniture install is still scheduled for 6/27. The grand opening of the new construction area, the fitness center, wellness clinic, town hall, is still on track, 10/14. Even with the delay in trusses, yesterday we were still 3 days ahead of schedule. So if we can get the trusses on, the roof on, and get out of the rainy season, or get that done before we get the heavy rains, we're going to be in really good shape. Hurricanes are the biggest risk that we have in missing that deadline. The Gastro Pub the opening is slightly delayed. We had a little setback yesterday. We called for all the lighting, and the lighting that we paid for and purchased back in October of last year never shipped because that particular line went out of business. So Gene is frantically working to try to find a replacement for the gastropub lighting. Shouldn't throw us back. We're only looking at in-stock items, so we may be a week delayed. So maybe the second week of July instead of the first. New tavern menus. You'll recall it's supposed to be Thursday in the town hall. You need to attend one of the 4 meetings. They were at 10, 11, 1 or 2. We are looking to schedule that one day next week. It's really busy next week because you'll remember that on the 21st you have the hurricane fire safety meetings, and then you on Thursday you have Wednesday, help me out.
COVID clinic.
Yeah, okay, so the COVID clinic is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday. Thursday is the dinner, the wine and food, or is it wine food pairing? And then on Tuesday is that's when we're trying to do both the town hall meetings on fire and hurricane, and then we're also going to try to figure out how to do this either Monday or Tuesday. So at this point, all I can tell you is that the dates are still not set, but there's something that's going to be going on every single day next week that you won't want to miss. So we will finalize that today, and we'll get it out on the calendar, and we'll get it posted on 7/32, and make sure you give plenty of time to attend. I think that may be it. It is it. All right, thank you. We'll open it up for questions and answers.
Very good.
We have a system, a phone call for emergencies. Why do we get a call for evacuating the building?
Yeah, so that's a great question, and so the fire alarm went off. Did you know that we had 2 fire alarms that night? Is anyone aware of that? Okay. You know they're not related? Okay, so just to make sure everyone knows, let me give you a little background. The first fire was at about 6:30 that night, and first fire alarm was 6:30 that night, and we had a plumber up on the second floor in the kitchen who had an auger, and he was grinding through a sewer pipe to unclog it, and he accidentally punched through the cast iron pipe. Now it's a 32-year-old cast iron pipe that is, that today they're PVC, but back then they were iron. It was completely rusted, and it was contaminated. It was just like paper. He punched through it. It took out the ceiling, and then it also took out a couple of fire detection pieces. And so the fire alarm was down on the night of the fire. At 7 o'clock, we had lost the fire detection system. We were on fire watch. That's our redundancy. So when the alarm goes down, we go on to a redundancy and we do a fire watch. And so we actually discovered the fire through the redundancy of our fire watch system. But when that first fire alarm went off, it also took out the front desk computer and the call alarm. And so that's why you didn't call. Now, Mitch, you raised an excellent point, and so we thought of that ourselves and said, okay, we've got to have a backup system because we didn't have redundancy built into the call alarm. So we now do, and this is the way we're going to handle it in the future. If there is a emergency in the north desk, it is the south desk who is going to make the call. If there's an emergency in the south desk, it is the north desk who is going to make the call. And we also think that makes a whole lot more sense because the other thing that first fire, we handled, it was fine. The second fire, we were overwhelmed. No one in the north building would have had time to make a call them all. But the south building absolutely would have been able to do it. So good opportunity to, after action analysis, learn from our experience and try to improve the system. Great question, Mitch.
I just had a question about clarification.
I know you said 4.5 feet in the core elevator, and that's what it said up there. That's not inches, that's actually feet.
Feet, yeah, and so,
Wow.
so, one of the other things we found out, so, yes, it does hold water. Our building designer, was pretty brilliant. And I'm not an architect, and there are probably architects who could speak to this, but our floors are monolithic slab construction. And what that means is that there's one slab of concrete right next to the other. And one side looks like a ball, and the other side looks like a claw, and they butt up together. It's called monolithic slab, and it creates a channel right down your apartment. You probably have noticed, because if you are in your apartment and you look up and you see a crack that runs perfectly straight right down the center of your apartment, that's where the monolithic slab connects. And so one of the things that it's designed to do is it dumps all of the water into the corridors. And so we had people in the R wing on the north side that had almost no damage. They were just right across from where the water was, but because of the monolithic slab design, all those things channel the water into the hallways. The hallways were wiped out. There's no carpet left in the hallways. Most of the walls are gone. They were wiped out. But that's the way the system was designed to work. And then what do you do with water that's on the 4th, the 3rd, and the 2nd floor? Well, the engineer said, well, let's just slope these floors and roll them into the elevators. So that's what they did. And so all that water got contained in the elevator shaft. Brilliant, pain in the ass, but absolutely brilliant. You have to pump it out. Yeah. And that's why it's been 7 days. I mean, yeah. You got a question back here somewhere.
Yes, let me get rid of this. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Let me preface this by saying a lot of the information I have might be incorrect when I ask these questions, so I've made some notes. This is our first gathering since COVID, so we have missed out on a lot of information about the meal plan. We have been on the 21-day meal plan since its inception. At that time, it was the same as the 30-day meal plan, only you were getting one a day meal for 21 days instead of 30, and getting the credit to go along with it. On your memo of May the 16th, I'm going to quote your statement here. You say that it's entitled 2 Meal Plans Explained. You will pay going rates if you're on the 21-day plan. For gourmet, holiday, pizza will be $13, grill will be $12.50. That's a memo that we got from you. Now we're here because of inflation. We can no longer have the same 21-day plan we have now. And based on the limited information I have, we feel we're not only losing our plan, which is supposed to be the same as the one-a-day meal on the 30-day plan, but we'll be penalized for choosing this because of inflationary reasons. If these upcharges are due to inflation, are we to understand that food purchased for the 20-day meal plan is going to cost more than the 30-day for the upcharge? Does Regency Oaks pay more for the food purchased for my 1 meal a day than they do for the 30 meal a day? Do you pay more for my 21-day pizza than you do for the 30-day pizza? If any one of these venues are chosen, like the holiday meals, am I going to pay more than the 30-day for that because I'm on the 21-day? It seems like the 21-day is being revamped to subsidize the 30-day.
Okay.
I know I might be very wrong about that, but that's what I gathered from
Yeah, so you've got to Thank you for the question. You got an awful lot of misinformation, but let me go over it just very briefly, and then if I don't give you enough detail, I'm happy to set up a meeting and go over it individually with you. So there are 3 meal plans at Regency Oaks. There's one called the Meal of the Day program. That's what the oldest of the programs. It's been around forever. There are 2 other programs. It's called the Bistro Meal Plan, and you can get it in the 21-day version where you get a $45 monthly credit back to your account, your MSF, or you can be on the 30-day Bistro Meal Plan, and you don't get a credit back. So those are the 3 plans. All 3 plans are still available. But here's the thing that will change, that on the Meal of the Day program, you can pretty much eat anywhere on campus, 1 meal a day. You can go to the Tavern, you can go to the Regency Room, the Bella Row, you can go to the Gastro Pub, you can go to the Outdoor Grill, you can go anywhere. And you're entitled to 1 meal, you can take it anywhere. On the other 2 programs, you can go anywhere, and you have a declining balance to work with, whether it's 210 or 300, depending upon which plan. And you will be charged a price, and those prices are published, just like, and that hasn't changed. That's always been the way it's worked. But what has changed is the tavern pricing is now a la carte. And so it's a la carte for everybody, but if you're on the Meal of the Day program, it really doesn't matter what the price is, because you're entitled to a meal of the day. If you're on the 21 or 30-day Bistro Meal Plan, it matters a lot. And so you'll want to attend one of the meetings next week. Very few of you have seen the new Bistro menu, but it reflects realistic pricing. It's no longer being subsidized by all the residents. So you can no longer go down to the Tavern and get a salad, a soup, a piece of salmon, 2 sides, a bread basket, your drink, and a dessert for $7.50. That's what's $9. That's now gone. There is realistic pricing based on market price, and so that describes what we're changing. And so if you need further detail, just set up an appointment. I'll sit down and go over it and answer all your questions. You're welcome. So where are we? Over here.
Okay, Brant, I think there's only 2 of us here who are homeless. 3, 4. Anyhow, we end up, because of medical issues, at the rehab at Sylvan. They've done a wonderful job. We were explained to right away what you were going to do for us. I'm very pleased with it. But at this point, I hope that maybe at the end of this meeting, you will give us a short summary of what's going on with our particular apartment. For instance, my apartment, I think, is completely different than some of the others.
Mm-hmm.
So would you do that at the end of this? Just give us a little bit of a update, good or bad.
Sure. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, I can do that.
There's one way over there.
This is back to the meal plan, and if I understand it correctly, the 30-day meal plan, each day is the day that you pay for. You don't use it, you lose it, as opposed to the way it used to be, which was, you had so many meals in a 30-day period. Is that true, and why would that be?
So
Because it
you
doesn't.
got your terminology mixed up a little
Okay.
bit. And so the 30-day plan is actually called the 30-day Bistro plan.
Okay.
The other plan you're referring to is called the Meal of the Day plan. And the Meal of the Day plan is for every day there is a meal, and if you don't use it, you lose it. And the reason for that is it's because a meal of the day. So if you don't use it, the next day you couldn't eat 2 meals because it's a meal of the day plan. On the 30-day bistro meal plan, you can eat 2 meals a day. And so there are choices and options that fit everyone's needs.
This one here.
Oh, hold on, there's someone else has a mic. Oh, hold on, someone has a mic over here. Who's asking? Oh, okay. No one has a mic over here.
Right here.
All right. Yes.
I was in the South Building the other day, and I was going to visit a friend, and she lives on the R wing. But as I was headed to go to the elevator, I found 2 other ladies that live in the building. One lady in the R wing, and she was so confused. She had no idea where she was going, how to get there. I ended up taking her up to her apartment, but she's okay in her apartment, but if she comes out, she can't get back down. She can't get back up. She's too confused. So how are those people being helped?
Sure, and so one of the biggest challenges we face is, it's not all residents are the same. We are a community where we age in place, and some of us are further along in that process than others. And so, we have some residents who are slightly confused. And then you think about what we did to them. When they had a fire, there's that confusion and chaos and disorganization, and we force them into, another apartment that is not their home, and it's a different environment, and they have way too much stimulus. And so it takes that confusion, and it doesn't make it better, it makes it considerably worse. And so we're aware of who those individuals are. We still believe that we're better off to try to support them and help them adjust to a new environment rather than putting them into a secure unit. We just don't think that's the right thing to do. And so we are trying to support and put those people. IHS is providing support to a lot of those folks. And we're trying to make that transition as smooth as we possibly can. But you're absolutely right. It's that change in environment can be just devastating for all of us, and it's even more compounded if you have confusion or disorientation.
When does meal of the day start July 1st?
So meal of the day starts July 1st. That's why we're in our practice session, but quite honestly, we didn't do a lot of practicing last week, right? So you still here's what you need to do. You need to attend the meeting we're going to have next week and see what the new menu looks like. It's very difficult for you to make this decision without seeing what the new menu is going to look like. Once you have that, you need to select a plan for July 1st. So you'll have to do that before July 1st. We will put you in that plan. You're not locked in. You have 90 days to try that plan or to try the other plan as well. You don't have to be locked into a final plan until October 1st. But you will need to select something to start with for July 1st, and we recommend you do it after you attend one of the menu meetings next week. And there are going to be 4 different meetings. You can attend any one of the 4. You don't need to attend all 4.
Our forms were due already. They were due today. Yeah, forms were due.
Yeah. So forms were due today, but obviously we're going to have to push that back. We've got to give you your chance to attend the menu meeting. Thank you for letting me know that. Yes, sir.
Grant, there was an analogy made at our last meeting that you offered in response to my advocating a change in charging people for meals that they don't get because they're on vacation. And you used the idea that the best way to compare would be think about your homeowner's insurance policy. The big difference is, and this is very important, with a car policy doesn't make any difference. With the meal plan, if you miss it, you don't get any kind of coverage or meal transfer or anything like that. You've just missed everything you've paid for. But on a homeowner's policy or an automobile policy, if you go on vacation, you have coverage at home. Your insurance policies are working for you while you're gone, assuming you pay the premium. So That was an incorrect analogy, just because there's no comparison at all. And if anybody's got any questions about insurance coverage, let me know. Because as long as you pay the premium, you take a 3-month vacation. You still have coverage at home. And if your second car is parked in the driveway and you've got comprehensive coverage, you've got coverage for theft.
Well, and that was sort of the point, is as long as you're paying for the meal, it doesn't matter from our perspective whether you eat it because you're here or don't eat it because you're away.
But you lose it.
You do.
You're paying for something that you don't get.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, and that's where you have, that's why there are 3 plans. So that's why you have options. You're not locked into one plan. You can use one of the 2 options that doesn't occur on.
Which one of those that it doesn't?
Bistro Meal Plan 21 and Bistro Meal Plan 30.
But you're paying for those plans regardless of how it's paid.
Yeah, you're paying for your insurance regardless of whether or not you use it. That's the analogy. You know, you don't pay for your insurance only if you have a car wreck. You pay for your insurance every single month.
And when you go on vacation, you're covered.
Because
So
you're
when
still
you go on
paying.
vacation here, you lose your meal and you've lost money that you paid for.
Okay, so we just disagree, but thank you very much for sharing your thoughts. All right, hold on. I don't know where we're going. Chet, I think Mike is coming your way. Gene, all right.
Slight change of subject, okay? Apartment fobs. If power goes off, are the fobs, is the door locked or unlocked?
So that was a great question, and so we asked that question. That had come up, and so the answer is, if you, under the new fob system, if the power goes off, does the power to the fob system go off? And the answer is yes. And I said, well, someone had pointed out, well, that's not very safe. And the response back is, it's okay because the reader is battery operated. And so we're going to have a period of time before we have to worry about the batteries in those fob readers being down. And so we don't know the exact time, but it's weeks, not days.
May I? I have already turned mine in, and this is the first time I'm hearing about True Bistro.
Yeah.
Can I turn my paper back out before I know what this True Bistro
Yeah,
is?
so it's always been that way. When we rolled out the bistro plan, everyone selected from the 21 or the 30-day bistro meal plan. Everybody, and so
I was not aware of the 30-day bistro.
yeah. So most people chose the 21. I bet you we don't have a
We have 30.
30. There's a
My
hand.
question is just, can I get my
Yes.
one I turned
Yep.
in?
Yep.
If
Yep.
I want to.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's my question.
Actually, monthly is.
All right, Jean actually is next. Jean's had her hand up here since the beginning of the meeting.
We're ignoring
You can ask 2 questions.
Well, mine is on the fire, and I have 2 questions. So the first one is this the first fire we've ever had here?
So this is the 3rd fire that we've had since I've been here. The fire before it was in the south dining room when an air conditioner unit in the dining room caught on fire. And it created a ton of smoke. Was anyone in the dining room that night? South building? It's been that long? Oh my God, I'm getting old. Okay, so there was a air conditioning fire in the south building, that dining room. It created a lot of smoke. And again, the staff just did an incredible job of evacuating that dining room, keeping people safe, extinguishing the fire, and that was a full fire response as well. The one before that was significant was a toaster fire in a resident apartment over in the north building, and that did pretty substantial damage to the unit, but it never got, it was contained because it was a zone within a zone and no one ever broached the door. And the resident did exactly what they were supposed to do. They evacuated the room and got out into a safe area.
My other question is, were there other catastrophes of heavy water damage, of people evacuating apartments, and the one that you said was in the dining room, is that when they all came over and ate in the north dining room, or was that, I remember that being something with water damage?
Yeah, so, all right, so, go off tape. so here's where we're going with this. For those of you who recall, the South Building had a riser burst, a sprinkler head riser pipe burst on the 5th floor 7 years ago. And that did massive damage, mostly to the A wing, but it did damage a lot of the units.